I'm going to start off by saying I was way too comfortable. But this was the third date and we already agreed to keep it lax, nothing too serious, when we first matched online. This night, I didn't even shave my legs. It was supposed to be casual, just dinner. That's what he said. That's what the text said, word for word. Let's do something low-key. I'll pick you up? I wore jeans, boots, a sweater. Nothing fancy. I wasn't even wearing eyeliner. I threw on a jacket, grabbed my purse, and met him outside my building. Nick. We'd gone out twice before. He was charming, a little awkward, but in a sweet way. Said things like, "That's bananas," without irony. Opened doors, laughed at my dumb jokes. The first date was coffee and a bookstore. The second was a walk and tacos. This one? Just dinner, apparently. He was waiting by the curb, standing next to a black SUV that wasn't his usual car. I figured maybe he borrowed it or rented it for the night. "You look great," he said. "Hope you're hungry." I smiled. "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise." I rolled my eyes, but I got in. It wasn't a restaurant, it was a country club. The kind with a long, winding driveway and a valet who looked like he wanted to ask if I was lost. I looked down at my jeans and then back at Nick. "This isn't low-key." He grinned. "I know." I stretched the truth a little. "What is this?" "Just dinner. Don't worry." He placed his hand on my lower back and guided me through the front doors. That's when I heard it. A voice shouting from across the room. "They're here." I turned my head. 30 people, maybe more. Standing in a banquet room, decorations, buffet trays, balloons that read, "Congratulations," and at the front of it all, a banner. "Welcome to the family, Nick and Rachel." My name. My full name. I stopped walking. Everything around me slowed. Nick leaned in close, too close, and whispered, "Just go with it." "I told them you were the one." I laughed, but it cracked in my throat. "What the hell are you talking about?" He didn't answer, just smiled like this was a funny bit, like I was supposed to be charmed. Then his mother was hugging me. "We're so thrilled," she said, practically vibrating. "He's talked about you non-stop. We're just so happy he found someone normal." I blinked. "I'm sorry, I think there's been—" "You're even prettier than your photos," she beamed. "And that ring. Stunning." I looked at my bare hands. No ring. I turned to Nick. "This isn't okay. I just needed them to meet you," he said softly, so no one else could hear. "They've been on my case for years. I told them I met someone. They got excited. It snowballed. This isn't a snowball. This is a fucking avalanche. Please," he said, "just get through the night. One dinner. Then we'll talk." He looked desperate. Not malicious, not controlling, just desperate. Like this was his only chance. So I stayed. Not because I wanted to. Because I didn't want to make a scene. Didn't want to embarrass myself. Didn't want to deal with 30 people watching me storm out. I figured, one plate of food, one awkward toast, and I'm out. That was the plan. Then came the slideshow. Yes, a slideshow. Photos of us, together. Most were real. Stuff we'd taken during our walks, selfies from our 2 dates. But some I'd never seen. One of us eating at a restaurant we'd never been to. One of us at the beach. I hadn't been to the beach in over a year. In all of them, my head was tilted the same way. Same smile, same pose. Like he'd stitched them together. Photoshopped, cropped, faked. People were clapping, crying. His uncle said something about finally seeing Nick happy. His dad gave a speech about love being patient. And the whole time, I sat there frozen, hands in my lap, trying to breathe. After dinner, I told him I needed to use the restroom. Instead, I went to the lobby, found a quiet corner, pulled out my phone, searched my name on Facebook. He'd made a joint account. Nick plus Rachel. Our engagement story was posted. Photos, fake dates, a paragraph about how he just knew. People had commented. So happy for you both. She's beautiful. He deserves this. My family wasn't tagged. None of my friends were in the loop, because this wasn't for me. This was for them. I called a rideshare, tried to leave quietly. The valet waved Nick over when he saw me. "Hey!" Nick said too loudly. "Where are you going?" "Home. What happened to just going with it? You lied to me. You created a life around me." He stepped closer, voice low. "It was already perfect. You just had to show up." "This isn't normal," I snapped. "This is delusional." His smile dropped. "You're not going to embarrass me in front of my family." I stared at him. "Watch me." I got in the car, shut the door, watched him through the window as we pulled away, still standing there, breathing heavy, fists clenched like he was trying not to break something. The messages started that night. "You humiliated me. You said you wanted something serious. My family was ready to love you. You don't walk away from that." Blocked. 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 A week later, I checked the fake Facebook page. Still up. A new post. A photo of a ring. Captioned, "Sometimes love is one-sided, but it still counts." Comments turned off. I changed my number, went off the apps, started using a different name on social. Because people like Nick, they don't want a relationship. They want a role to cast, a story to direct. And if you say no, they just recast the lead and keep filming. It was just a date. That's the part I can't stop looping back to. It wasn't a relationship. Not even close. It was a drink. A laugh. One night. Nothing happened. And somehow, it still wrecked my life. We matched on Bumble. Chloe. Her profile was cute. Maybe a little curated. But who isn't? Blonde, blue-eyed, big smile. A golden retriever in her first pic. A quote from Pride and Prejudice in her bio. She messaged first. "I bet you're the kind of guy who orders whiskey at a brunch." I laughed, responded with something stupid, and we were off. She was charming, funny in a self-deprecating way. Said she'd just moved here for grad school and didn't know anyone. We texted for a week before she asked if I wanted to meet up for drinks. I said sure. The date was fine. Better than fine, honestly. She looked just like her pictures. Wore a dark red sweater and boots. She hugged me when we met, made a joke about how short she felt next to me. We sat at the bar and conversation came easy. Books, movies, weird childhood fears. There were moments it felt like we could have known each other for longer. I paid the tab. She offered to split it. I told her not to worry. She smiled, touched my arm lightly, and said, "You're one of the good ones, huh?" I walked her to her car. She hugged me again. Not awkward, just warm. Then she said, "Next time, you're letting me cook." I smiled. "We'll see." And I meant it. I liked her, but I wasn't sure. You know that feeling? When the night's good but something in your gut isn't? It wasn't a red flag, just a quiet tug that said, wait. The texts after were intense. Not angry, not weird, just constant. That night, I had such a good time. I can still feel your energy. The next morning, woke up smiling. That has to mean something, right? By lunch, I told my roommate about you. She says you sound like husband material, LOL. I waited a few hours before replying. Told her I had a good time too, but that I was still figuring things out. She heart reacted. Then said, "Totally. No pressure. I'm chill." But over the next few days, the messages kept coming. More frequent, longer, deeper. Voice notes. TikToks she thought I'd like. A poem she said reminded her of me. It had been 4 days. That's when I knew I had to say something. I texted her Friday night, told her I didn't want to lead her on, that I thought she was great, but I didn't feel the click I was hoping for. I was kind, director, respectful. She didn't respond until 3 a.m. Wow, that really came out of nowhere. You said you had a good time. You touched my back. You looked me in the eyes. What kind of person sends mixed signals like that? I didn't answer. Blocked her number the next morning. Felt shitty about it, sure, but also relieved. That should have been the end of it. 3 days later, There was a knock at my door. 2 cops, real, uniformed, badge and all. They asked if I was Daniel Reyes. I said yes. They said they had questions about a recent encounter. My stomach dropped. I thought, car accident? Mistaken identity? Maybe she reported me for ghosting? Number. They read me my rights and said a woman named Chloe Parker had filed a report of sexual assault. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't form words. They asked if I'd come down to the station voluntarily. I agreed. My hands were shaking the entire drive there. They questioned me for 2 hours. Went over the night minute by minute. Asked where we sat, what I wore, what she drank, if we'd touched, if I walked her to her car, if we kissed, if I'd been to her apartment. Number. I explained everything. They didn't arrest me, didn't charge me, but they took my statement, and now my name is in the system. You don't realize what that means until it happens to you. No, I wasn't charged. No, I didn't do anything, but a report was filed. That's enough to show up in background checks. Enough to pop up if I apply for anything government-related. Enough to make cops pull me over with a little more caution. I hired a lawyer. He called it reputation harassment. Said it's rare, but not unheard of. Women, or men, making false reports as a form of retaliation, of control, of rewriting the story. But even proving the truth doesn't erase the paperwork. It just buries it deeper. I still have the texts, the heart reacts, the no pressure message. My lawyer says they help, says they show it was consensual. But there's still a note, a digital fingerprint that I was accused. You think people won't find out? They do. They ask quietly. They make assumptions. And even when they believe you, it changes how they look at you. Forever. I tried reporting her, for filing a false claim, but the officer just shrugged and said, she never said it happened that night. Could have been another time, another place. And she's allowed to change her mind. He wasn't being cruel. He was just being honest. There's no way to unring a bell like that. I don't date anymore. Not seriously. Not without checking mutuals, LinkedIns, criminal records. I keep everything in writing. Every text, every plan. If I hold someone's hand, I'm replaying the timeline in my head like a dash cam. Because one time, one date, one sentence, one lie was all it took. And now, I walk through life hoping the next person doesn't believe it. Hoping I don't get flagged at airports. Hoping no one ever looks too deep without asking me first. Because I'm innocent. But my name doesn't know that. And neither will the next person who Googles me. I didn't think much of it at first. The blanket folded too perfectly on the couch. The faint smell of cologne that wasn't mine. The extra toothbrush in the bathroom cup. She said she lived alone, and I didn't question it. Because she said it casually, like it wasn't even worth confirming. Just one of those throwaway details you take for granted when you're getting to know someone new. Her name was Erin. We met a little bit ago on Hinge. She was funny, a little dry. Had this effortless confidence that made me feel like I was lucky to be around her. The kind of woman who didn't overshare, didn't try too hard, didn't flood your phone with texts. We had 2 dates, both good, easy. She laughed at my dumb stories, asked real questions. She seemed grounded, normal. So when she invited me over after date 3, I said yes. She lived in a duplex, upstairs unit in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. The kind of place with cracked sidewalks, old porch swings, and neighbors who mow their lawns barefoot. The apartment was clean, not showroom clean, just lived in. Books stacked next to the couch, candles half burned down, a throw pillow that looked chewed on by a pet she didn't have. She poured me a drink, kicked off her shoes, and flopped onto the couch like she owned the space. Which, as far as I knew, she did. We hung out, laughed, talked a little more seriously this time. Childhood stuff, old jobs, where we saw ourselves in 5 years. And eventually, we ended up in her bed. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of movement. Nothing loud, just soft creaking. A footstep, then another. The kind of sound that only catches your attention because everything else is so still. At first, I thought she got up. But when I turned, she was still asleep next to me. I sat up and listened. The footsteps moved through the apartment, slow, familiar, like someone who knew exactly where they were going. I got up quietly and opened the bedroom door. And standing in the hallway, mid-step, was a man, wearing boxers, rubbing his eyes, barefoot. We locked eyes. No surprise, no panic. He just looked at me, nodded slightly and said, "Bathroom's taken. I'll wait." Then turned and walked toward the kitchen like it was his place. I stood there frozen. My first thought was, am I dreaming? My second, who the hell is that? I went back into the room. Erin was sitting up now, watching me. "There's a man in your apartment," I said. She didn't blink. "Yeah, that's Matt." "Who's Matt?" "My ex." "You live with your ex?" "Technically, yeah." I couldn't speak for a second. She tucked her hair behind her ear, calm as anything. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. You told me you lived alone." "I do. He's just still here." "That's not living alone, Erin. He's on the lease. I've been trying to get him to leave." "You didn't think to tell me this before I spent the night? What would you have done if I had?" "I wouldn't have come over?" "Exactly." She pulled the blanket around her like the conversation was exhausting her. "It's not romantic. We don't talk much. We just coexist." "You coexist with your ex in a one-bedroom apartment?" "There's a futon in the laundry room. He usually sleeps there. He just crashes on the couch sometimes when it's too hot." "This is insane." She looked annoyed now. "Why? Because I didn't give you a guided tour of my emotional baggage? Because I didn't warn you that my breakup didn't come with a moving truck?" "No, because I was in your bed, and you didn't think I deserved honesty." Silence. Then quietly, "I liked you. That's why I didn't say anything. I grabbed my stuff and left. Didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. I just walked out of her apartment, down the creaky stairs, and into the still night, my stomach twisted in knots. Not because I was hurt, but because I realized I had no idea what I'd just walked into. I didn't text her. She didn't text me. It ended there, without fanfare. But for weeks afterward, it stuck with me. Not because she lied, but because she lied so casually, like she'd done it before. Like it was normal to invite someone into your bed without mentioning that another man, someone you used to sleep with, was asleep 15 feet away. And the scariest part? He wasn't angry. He wasn't jealous. He didn't even seem surprised to see me. Which means, this wasn't the first time. Just the first time I was the one who didn't know. It started with a message that was a little too thoughtful. Most guys on apps like Tinder send one-word icebreakers. "Hey, you up?" Cute smile. He didn't. He commented on my favorite book, quoted a line from it, then asked what it meant to me. I stared at it for a while, trying to figure out if he copied the quote from Goodreads or actually read the book. He seemed real, smart, just different. We matched, started talking, and it was like he'd been waiting to have the kind of conversation no one else ever gave him. No small talk, no delays, just hours of voice notes, deep dives into childhood, philosophy, grief. He said his name was Jeremy, said he hadn't been dating long, said I made him feel safe. I told myself to slow down. I've done the trauma bonding thing before. I wasn't trying to play therapist again. But he seemed kind, sweet, lonely. So I kept talking. We had our first date 5 days later. Coffee shop, middle of the day, neutral territory. He was already seated when I walked in. Black hoodie, headphones around his neck, head down. He stood when he saw me. Tall, shy smile, voice softer than I expected. I sat. We talked. He told me about his job, nonprofit tech, about his cat who'd been sick for weeks, about how he'd never felt like anyone actually saw him before. I asked a few surface-level things, music, food, travel, but he always circled back to something deeper. By the time my cup was empty, I knew more about his life than I did most people I'd been friends with for years. I knew his mom disowned him, that his brother died when he was a teenager, that he tried to kill himself twice in college, that therapy didn't work for him. that he didn't feel like he had anyone left. It was a lot. And I knew, deep down, it was too much for a first date. But he said it all so earnestly. Not performative. Just raw. When I got home, he sent a text that said, "Thank you for not flinching." I didn't know how to respond, so I just sent a heart emoji. He wanted to see me again the next day. I said I was busy. He offered to bring soup to my place just in case. I said no. He apologized for being too much. I reassured him he wasn't, and that became the pattern. He'd pour, I'd comfort. He'd apologize, I'd validate. Then one night, he called. I let it go to voicemail. He texted immediately. "Sorry, I had a bad episode. Just wanted to hear your voice." I called him back. We talked for an hour. He cried at one point, told me he hadn't trusted someone like this in a long time, said I was medicine. When we hung up, I felt this sinking weight in my chest. Not attraction, not love. Obligation. A few days later, he came over. I didn't mean for him to. He was in the neighborhood. Said he just wanted to say hi. Brought chocolate and a used book he thought I'd like. We sat on the couch. He held my hand. Then both. He looked at me and said, "I haven't felt this safe with someone since before my brother died." I didn't know what to say. I just smiled weakly, squeezed his hand. Then he said, "You're not gonna leave now, right?" I looked up. He was still holding my hands, tighter now. "You know too much," he said quietly. "You're responsible." I tried to pull my hand back. He didn't let go. "That's not fair," I said. "But it's true," he replied. "I'm not your therapist." "I don't need a therapist, I need you. You understand me." "Jeremy, this is too much. Too fast." He let go of my hand, and something in his face changed. Not angry, just empty. He stood up, walked to the window, said nothing for a full minute. Then he turned around and said, "You don't get to undo what you know. That's the deal." "What deal?" "The deal when someone opens up. You don't walk away after that. You don't get to." I told him I needed space, that I didn't feel comfortable. He stared at me for a long time, then grabbed his jacket and left. No goodbye. He didn't message me that night, but the next day, he sent a long email. It started with, "I forgive you." He said I'd broken something in him, that it was cruel to become someone's mirror and then shatter, that I had a responsibility to either love him or carry the weight of what I saw. I didn't respond. Over the next few weeks, I saw his name everywhere. He'd comment on mutuals posts, pop up in People You May Know, show up outside my building one evening just walking past. I blocked, deleted, changed accounts, but the weight of what he said stuck. "You know too much. You're responsible." Like his pain was now a debt I owed. And the worst part? There's a version of me that still wonders if I could have helped. If walking away made things worse. If maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe I was the only person who ever listened. But I also know that's how it works. The guilt, the hook, the hand on yours, squeezing just tight enough to hold you in place. Because it was never about love. It was about control, disguised as vulnerability, wrapped in pain. And once you're in, you don't leave without tearing off a piece of yourself.